All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Betsy McGovero. Welcome to this first Lunch and Learn of our 40th anniversary of the Combined Fund Drive. The Combined Fund Drive acknowledges the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations, and that we occupy this land. While we recognize that this acknowledgement does not replace authentic relationships with Indigenous communities, we hope that it honors with gratitude the land and the original. And again, welcome. My name is Betsy, and I'm a campaign assistant for the Combined Fund Drive. In my role, I have the distinct pleasure of working and connecting nonprofits in the community to our amazing UW employees. Huzzah! Thank you all for being here. And today, we are proud to welcome 4 nonprofits who are helping students on their path to higher education. We have Northwest Education Access, which is our featured nonprofit for the University of Washington Combined Fund Drive this year. And we're welcoming Cooper Metz, the interim executive director. Additionally, we have joining us to speak Alyssa Knight, the executive director of the Freedom Education Project, Asma Ahmed, a board member of One World Now, and Jordan Goldford, executive director of One World Now, and the interim executive director, Kayla Davis, Miss Simby of Rainier Scholars. I really should have asked everybody their name pronunciation, so please reintroduce yourselves when it's your turn to speak. So apologies. I also have a difficult last name, so I'm in your company. In the chat, when each presenter is speaking, I'll place a little link for you to feel free to make a donation if you'd like through payroll deduction. And at the end of each, we'll do all 4 presentations, and then at the very end, we'll take questions. So without further ado, we will introduce Cooper Metz from Northwest Education Access.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. Let me get my screen here going. Okay. Everyone see that okay? Oh, okay. Thanks for the thumbs up. So like the introduction, our organization is called Northwest Education Access. Our mission is to provide comprehensive and individualized support to help low-income youth 16 to 29 build their own path to higher education and beyond. And we actually started right in the University District. We began as a volunteer-run drop-in center supporting unhoused youth with completing their GED. And we have since expanded and are now serving throughout King, Pierce, and South Snohomish counties. The way that we're able to do this work is through partnerships. So we are partnered with 14 community technical colleges, multiple GED and high school re-engagement programs, and then also over 40 community-based organizations throughout the counties that we serve. And you see on the left-hand side are the different education institutions in which we have direct partnerships with, and our education advocates who are providing that individualized support to our students. They are stationed at these different sites throughout the regions that we serve. And so to speak a little bit more to who we are serving, opportunity youth. So for folks who are less familiar or not familiar with this term, it's speaking to young folks who are disconnected from either education and or employment. And we have over 100,000 youth in Washington state that are opportunity youth. And speaking a little bit more to our organization, oftentimes the students that we are supporting are students who have been pushed out of the traditional K through 12 system, students who maybe are single parents dealing with housing instability, are immigrants to this country, navigating our super complicated education system. But looking at our 2023-2024 annual report demographics, 71% of our students that we work with are first generation college students. 47% are first generation high school graduates, 34% have experienced homelessness, 84% are folks of color, and then we have 35% male, 56% female, and 9% transgender or gender nonconforming. And so to speak more about the work, this is a very busy map. But if you look on the left-hand side of this map, our education advocate, which I mentioned, is doing that one-on-one intensive holistic support with students. Our education advocates get connected, a student gets connected with an education advocate, and then that person is with them throughout their entire education journey. And so the education advocate is really focused on building a trusting, authentic, and supportive relationship with that student. So like I mentioned, although we have these partnerships with institutions and with community-based organizations, we always emphasize with the student that at the end of the day, we are there to serve them, and we have their best interests at heart in all the work that we're doing to support them. So education advocates help students with program and career exploration so that they're aware of all the different options that are available to them so that they can make the best decision for themselves and the institution, the program that they attend to work towards their career goals. Education advocates also support students with accessing funding and then also maintaining funding. So helping them with the FAFSA WASFA, but then all of the additional documentation that's required after that that can be a barrier for students actually accessing their funding. Education advocates also support with enrollment, which can be a huge barrier for students as well. There are a lot of ins and outs to that process, and also support with students that are interested in transferring. Oftentimes, our students start at a community technical college to earn their associate's degree, and then will transfer on to a four-year college to earn their bachelor's. And then, like I mentioned, our education advocates are there to support the student throughout their entire education journey. So they are providing ongoing academic guidance and support to our students. And specifically, a lot of our students are dealing with significant barriers. Things come up in their life where they need to take a step away from education for a while. And our education advocates are there to support students in re-entering when they're ready. We also have within our organization's network, we have volunteers that work with our students. So they provide tutoring support, but are also there to support students during that program and career exploration time, sharing their knowledge and expertise of whatever professional background they're in. And they're also available as professional mentors as well for our students and alum. We also have some contract tutors that all provide tutoring support in specialized subject areas for our students as well. We have a student network. And so just this is a newer part of our program, but we are providing engagement events for our students as well as alumni of our program. So an opportunity for students to come together, build community, have that sense of belonging and be around students that maybe have a similar, background as them, have dealt with the same barriers in navigating education. In addition to having these engagement events, we also have an alumni and student advisory board that supports this network. And that's made up of 9 folks, students and alumni of our program. And they support us with pretty large organizational decisions, like supporting us with figuring out our budgeting, what we need to prioritize for the next year, our program improvements, supporting us with advocacy efforts when we go down to the Capitol, speaking with representatives and senators. And so through supporting our organization, they're also building professional skills, and they receive a quarterly stipend for their participation in this as well. And then lastly, our campus and community network, and this speaks to the partnership, which I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide. But it's with a lot of our students, we're connecting them to services on their campus, whether that is, disability accommodations or needing emergency funding. So our education advocates become really familiar with the campus that they're supporting at and really get connected with the staff on that campus so they can be able to directly refer a student to the resources that they need. Same thing with out in the community, really becoming familiar with the different community resources available in the region that they serve so that they can be able to connect students to those resources as needed. So to speak a bit more about that partnership, right, connected to community technical colleges, re-engagement programs, and also community-based organizations. Sometimes partnerships just look like, a community-based organization is familiar with our program and they are sending emails connecting their clients or participants to us. But other times it looks like us having space on site at that partner site, and having designated office hours so that staff and students know when they can, come and get support from our education advocates. And it also allows so staff can provide those warm handoffs, being able to walk a student over and introduce them to our education advocate. Um, Education advocates also can attend staff meetings. So that's an opportunity for them to provide updates on the students that have been referred to them by this partner site. This is also an opportunity for them to learn about like what are the updates or changes that are going on at that partner site as well. And then there's multiple ways in which we share project progress updates about students. Sometimes it's, yeah, in those meeting spaces. Other times it might be a one-on-one check-in with a particular staff member, or we have, a spreadsheet of a student tracker providing updates on the progress that a student's made. And it just emphasizing how this speaks to like the students' network of support, really growing and strengthening that, having us on the campus at the community-based organization, collaborating with staff to be able to provide that wraparound support to students. And that our support is not contingent on a student being enrolled in credits. So where a college is limited to who they can support when a student needs to take a break from school, we can continue to work with them and get them connected to those resources to address what's going on and stay connected with them and support them when they're ready to re-enter. So this is from our 2023-2024 annual report. Going through this quick. So we served over 900 students in that year. 119 of those students started college. We provide laptops, bus tickets, and also a small quarterly scholarship to our students as well. We had over 5,000 hours of one-on-one education advocate support provided to students within that year. We also provide financial aid completion workshops out in the community and also at education institutions. And we had over 700 students attend those within the year. And then we had 62 students who earned their credential or their degree within the year. Um, so moving away from the direct service part of our work, and a newer part to our org within the past few years, we've started providing capacity building support. And so the idea behind this is we're not wanting to continue to expand and to grow. We recognize that there are organizations that are already doing amazing work out in the community, and that they are better suited to support the folks that they're working with, whether that's because of the culture, their identity, the languages that they speak, the specializations and the services that they're providing. So we want to be able to share our best practices, what we've learned over the past 20 plus years with organizations that are interested in providing post-secondary navigation support to their participants. And so what that has looked like so far, we provide trainings, and then we also have a toolkit that is paired with each of our trainings with resources, and different templates that we use in supporting our students. And then we also provide program design support. So if an organization is interested in enhancing their post-secondary program, or maybe they don't even have that yet and they're wanting to build it out, we're available to be thought partners through that process with them. And in all three of these areas, our training, our toolkit, like the resources we develop, and the program design support, we are tailoring that to the specific organization, based on where they serve, who they serve, the structure of their program, the capacity of their staff. So this is just listing out the different partners that we've worked with so far. And then the ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that we are excited to get to start to work with this year. So Best Starts for Kids, they have an initiative, the Stopping School to Prison Pipeline, where they are providing 11 different organization grantees with technical assistance as well as funding assistance. So we're going to be providing a training to those 11 different community-based organizations through that initiative. And then we'll also be working with the Seattle colleges across their 3 campuses to provide a trauma-informed care training to their staff that are directly working with and supporting students. So really excited for that. And I think, yes, so that's the end. I left with some quotes on here. Quote from one of our partners at Bradley, the president at Seattle Central College. He's also a board member of our organization, but he said, colleges can't fully support students on their own or in a vacuum. So many of the challenges that students are facing are not purely academic. We found that partnering with Northwest Education Access has been invaluable for students getting personalized attention from an education advocate that can't really be replicated inside of the college. Having an advocate in their corner throughout their education journey, even across different educational institutions, has been the most successful way I have seen students getting uninterrupted and seamless support toward meeting their education goals. And then student Clarissa, who she's actually a current student at UW right now, she says, in the moments where I was really stuck and I had nowhere else to go and I couldn't just carry on anymore, I felt like my education advocate was there to reassure me that everything was going to be all right, even up until the last minute. They were always there. And then lastly, an alumna, Merve, She was a graduate of UW Seattle, and she said, I feel like I can talk to her about anything. I'm not the only one she's supporting, but she makes me feel like I'm the only one she's supporting. So I'll leave it there. Thank you all so much for your support. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cooper. Woo! All right. Next, I'd like to introduce Alyssa Knight from the Freedom Education Project, Puget Sound.
Thank you, Cooper. That was lovely, and I wish I had a beautiful slide deck to just like show everyone because that was really well put together. Thanks for sharing that. I may actually be reaching out to you, Cooper, just FYI. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Alyssa Knight. I use she, her pronouns. I am the new executive director for Freedom Education Project of Puget Sound. You will hear me say FEPS throughout this because that is how we refer to ourselves. What's really cool, so I am also a co-founder of FEPS. So in 2011, I was incarcerated, and at that time, I recognized that there was no access to higher ed. There were no degree opportunities for folks in prison, and that was pretty widely unknown in my, at least, social network. Um, and so we started to have conversations about what it might look like to have a college degree program running inside of a prison. And there were a group of us who really worked hard to bring that idea or that vision to fruition. And we worked with a lot of local professors, some from UW, who helped us build out this program and seek accreditation and find funding, which everybody in the room who's running a nonprofit knows that is not a small task to do. So it is something I'm very proud of, but our program as a whole, so let me pull up my little spiel. Our program as a whole provides a rigorous college program for women, transgender folks, and gender nonconforming people inside the Washington Correction Center for Women. We have been doing this work since 2011 when we started talking about it, and we ran our first cohort beginning in 2014 after much piloting and having to get the legitimacy of a university buy-in. We were really excited because our first graduating class in 2016 only had 4 folks. And every year that number grew. So that now in 2024, we have graduated over 72 folks with their Associates of Arts degree. But in that time, we have also built a relationship with the University of Puget Sound to offer a bachelor's degree in liberal arts. And this past June, we graduated our first cohort. So we had 10 graduates that now have a bachelor's in liberal arts from the University of Puget Sound that they get to like put in their wallet and have that social capital. Our program as a whole really has run on this idea that people in prison deserve to have access not just to education, but to quality education. We believe in in-person instruction, and we believe in the relationships that happen and that are built inside of classrooms. We also recognize that the ecosystem really functions as an ecotone when you come into a classroom that exists inside of a prison, because we know that students who get to step into the classroom get to leave their prison life behind, even if that's only for a few hours, and that professors who come in are deeply impacted by their experience coming into the prison, where they get to step into a very restrictive space and then step out of it as they step into a classroom, so that we create our own ecosystem in that space. What we have learned over a decade plus of experience is that that is the place that transformation happens. So we know that when we can give people the skills to think critically, to be able to discern good information or solid information from a lot of the muck, and also when people have the tools that allow them to be self-aware, and to really be able to analyze their positionality, not just as a person who's incarcerated, but as a person who is in a system that has deeply impacted the way that they came to be a part of that system, and how they came to be in the position that they are in currently. That there are profound things that get brought into that space. What we have seen from our classes, again, we've been running over a decade. We have seen folks who come in and have moved through the program and stepped directly into leadership. We have seen a culture that shifted inside, a prison culture that went from thinking that this decision that I made, this incarceration, this record that will follow me will be my single narrative and the only thing that I get to tell people, or the thing that I am best known for the rest of my life. That can be a diminishing position to be in, that can be a position that does not see hope, and it doesn't see that there is change that's possible. And it also doesn't see other options for what life could be. We have seen students who have come through, who have built programs. So they have graduated and then asked what's next. And instead of going, well, what's next will be what happens when I get out, instead, they may have a few years left. They may have a lot of years left. What we've seen is that the culture as a whole has been infused with these really smart folks coming together, organizing, writing curriculum, learning to teach, running workshops, and again, infusing their own community with the knowledge that they have gained, and then really prompting other folks to do the same. I remember, when we first started, that there were quite a few people who were like really on the fence about supporting this. Peers, people, again, the population in the prison was questioning why we would all be subjecting ourselves to really challenging education when there are easier paths for doing time. And what we found is that we started to build a community that challenged each other. We started to build a community that, rather than playing cards or fighting or infighting or talking about what was happening in the prison, people were running to the bathroom and trying to study for a test because they had to make movement to get in for their math test that they had worked really hard to do well at. And so we started again to see this culture shift that said, education is actually gold, right? Having knowledge is actually currency, and it's currency that can't be taken away from us. So I think in so many ways, the idea of property, especially when you are deemed state property, the idea of owning things is a foreign idea, right? This idea that something that can be yours because at all times you are subject to a system that can take the things away from you. And that knowledge and education became this capstone or this cornerstone that couldn't be taken. And we really saw empowerment through that. So our program measures success in some odd ways, right? Of course, we do the accounting for how many students we've served, which is over 300. We've offered 90 unique classes, but we do offer a lot of classes that are repeats. Well, we've offered 90 unique classes. Again, we've graduated 72 folks. We have 10 people with bachelor's degrees as well. Our idea of success is not measured in that. Instead, we are looking at how many people are interested in the coming year. How many times do we get reach outs that say we want to be a part of this? Also, how many community members outside of the prison know about us and reach out to teach with us, to volunteer with us? For us, those are metrics, right? We are looking at how many people want to be engaged in this. How visible is this making what happens inside of prison? Because a lot of the times the idea is that we put dysfunction behind a fence and we hide it in a forest, and then we use tax dollars to pay for it, but we don't ever look at it again. And what education does is it's creating a population that refuses to be erased. It's creating a population who understands agency, so that we now have students who reach out to the community all the time. What I will say is, over the course of 10 years, I always like to give a really clear picture of where we are now, because when we were seeking funding in the beginning, it was like, help us get a college program up off the ground. We now have educated people problems, for lack of a better way of putting it. We have a student body. I mean, we run differently than a university, right? Our students are students the day they enroll. But like you, Cooper, they're also students when they're not enrolled anymore. They are students when they have graduated. If they are still incarcerated, FEPS is generally the program where you go to get things done. So if you want to write a book, you're probably going to reach out to us because we can link you with someone. If you want to get into grad school or you didn't get to finish your bachelor's and you want to complete, we're the person who's going to help you with reentry there. But we're also the person who like would help you write curriculum, create a business plan, honestly think about ways of fundraising, think about ways of funding other projects, helping put other things that really don't have anything to do with us as a college entity. And yet it's the way that we become this full service because it is a place where people understand that we will always be forward thinking. What this has created is students who have been students for 10 years sometimes. We also allow people to continue taking classes. So that will change as we bring in Pell funding, but up until now, we have paid for everything, including paying professors. And we have been grateful to have relationships with universities that have not charged us tuition up until now. So our money has been able to support building out the program. What we have is a student body now who is asking what's next, who is asking, now that I have this capital and this currency, what do I do with it? And so we are realizing that there are gaps in the knowledge that we get at the university, that you can give somebody this credential that allows them a better career opportunity, but they might get into that position and find there are a lot of gaps in their knowledge. So we're at a point where we are starting to address that, where we're saying, you know, what does leadership training look like? What does it look like for you to learn about professional development, to really be seeking like specialized training, coaching? And these are ways that we're starting to think about supporting our program. Much in the same way that a large university like UW has a career center, we do not. So thinking about how do we tailor some of those services to really serve our population as well. The other thing that we are coming up against is that as new people come into the prison, and we start to invite them into our program, we're realizing that the problem we have is nobody has institutional memory of not having access to higher ed. And that is a legacy that we leave. It is a beautiful legacy, right? That says when we started, no one even wanted to talk about it. The public and the public sentiment tended to be, if we pay for our kids to go to school, why would we pay for this? My argument is always, you already do, because your taxes pay for this. But what it doesn't pay for is determining what that programming looks like. What I will say is we serve a prison that's designated for women. It does have the largest gender non-conforming population of any prison, so 10% of the population. And so our student body is not just women, and yet I will say we serve the most marginalized populations. So that we do have trans folks, we do have gender nonconforming folks, and we do have women, and all of them are marginalized populations who tend to have the least amount of access to not just higher ed, but also quality, rigorous, challenging higher education that is thinking about this full service. So we're excited about the work that we do, but it is also difficult work. And I will say that it is never really cut and dry. I wish that we could come out and say, these are exactly the things that we do. But there is no way for us to define that because we are a responsive program that offers degree programs, but that also offers these other holistic services that really seek to look at student success as a way of caring for the whole individual so that they can show up for themselves in the classroom. In our current space, so just to really kind of, I never tell a linear story, so I do apologize for that. But in this space where you all may be interested, you know, we do often look at, of course, we're always looking at funding, but because we're also in a room full of faculty and people who work for UW, I think it's important for me to get to name, we also really value partnerships. And if there are folks in the room who are interested in teaching a non-traditional student in a non-traditional setting, that those are things we also welcome, and that we also see as highly, highly valuable. If you have students who you know are interested in this field, who might be studying something and you see a passion in them, sending them our way to volunteer, sending them our way as a partnership, those are things that we also value. And we're always looking to bridge and build the bridge between the prison university or the prison college campus and the university college campus so that we can really meaningfully think about what are the next steps for our students, because we also want them to be welcomed onto campus. And we do know that the campus we create, we get to curate, but the campus that they step onto often is not the space where they feel most welcomed. And so we're always trying to make sure that we can put those supports and relationships in place so that our students do step in and feel like they belong. Because intellectually, our students rock and they do belong. I am an UW alum, so just as like the person sitting in the room though who says like I actually went this whole trajectory and got to step into a classroom feeling not just equipped but like so much more equipped than my peers in the room to really be tackling hard conversations and to be doing the work at UW. Like I would say our program is a direct representation of that kind of quality. And we are really proud of that. So I don't have the ask except to say to the room, like, I am very happy to be here. And also, I hope that some partnerships come from this. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Alyssa. That was really amazing. Delighted to have you here too. Okay, so next I want to introduce One World Now. So Jordan and Esma.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Okay. Hey, everyone. My name is Esma Ahmed. I am a board member, but I was also a former student at One World Now. A proud alum of this incredible organization, One World Now. And so One World Now is an after-school program that offers language, leadership classes, as well as study abroad opportunities. The languages that are offered are Arabic, Chinese, Korean, and Russian. And there's a global significance to these languages that we offer. And these are languages that are not usually taught in the US. Next slide. Before I get to talk about this great organization, I just want to ask everyone what your favorite word is. You can just type in the chat box, and what does it mean to you? My favorite Arabic word is ayati, and it means my life, and it's just a term of endearment, and I really use that word a lot. So if you guys could just share your favorite word in another language, that would be great. And you get to learn a new word in another language. Next slide, please. So my journey with OWN. And so this is a picture of me graduating high school, and this is a picture of me at my master's program at UW. And in between all that, before all that, I was with OWN as a student. So I first heard about OWN through one of my friends in the 10th grade. And I was searching for like a summer program, and I wasn't really sure where to go. And I was drawn when my friend said that they were offering Arabic classes. And the only way that I knew to connect with Arabic was through Sunday school of my faith. And so it was really interesting to see like an organization has a structure that teaches Arabic programs. And so, so I was already learning Quranic Arabic, but I wanted to also get into that conversational skill of really interacting Arabic conversationally, because my cousins from the Middle East, there was that language barrier where they were struggling to understand my English, and I was struggling to understand their Arabic, and that's how I connected with OWN, because I just felt like that's something that they can give me. So I was a kid from South King County, and OWN's program was up in Seattle. And so the bus process, the bus ride to OWN was long, but the enrollment process was very simple and easy. And so in that summer program, I was able, from the sense of belonging and support that I found within OWN, I was able to enroll in their year-round program. And so I just learned so much, like language skills, leadership skills, and it was exactly what I was looking for as a student. And I think a struggle of mine was I was one of the few students that was from South King County, but OWN was able to reduce that barrier by giving me bus tickets. And so I was able to continue my involvement within OWN because of the services that they had offered. The impact at OWN for me was very transformative. It boosted my confidence. It allowed me to just strengthen my leadership skills. In the leadership classes, we would talk a lot about social justice issues. global and local issues, and just kind of build that strength up of like not only my leadership classes, but also research skills, and just overall like allowing me to be a well-rounded student as I was finishing off my high school career. And most importantly, it gave me a really sense of community of like-minded individuals who I'm still friends with today that I've met over 10 years ago. And so OWN really empowered me to just they understood me as a student, but also empowered me with like-minded people. And as I was applying for colleges, they really expanded my horizon into applying to UW, and I got into UW as an undergrad, and it allowed me to just further my career and my schooling and go to do study abroad within UW. Go Huskies. And I loved UW so much, went back again, got my master's. Love UW even more because I work at UW today. Supporting the early childhood education through assessing and evaluating early learning programs. Because of these opportunities and exposure that OWN has opened the door for me, it allowed me to work in education spaces globally and locally. And it really helped shape into the global leader I am today. And it's something, and I'm really excited about supporting a organization that shaped my development as a leader. And service is a value of mine and something that I really believe in. And so I went back I went back to being a board member, and I'm committed to empowering the next generation of OWN students in their own journey. And so that's just my personal connection to One World Now. Next slide, Jordan. And so again, as I said earlier, this map highlights many of the languages spoken worldwide. And then you'll see that most of the languages on this map outside our OWN are represented. And the reason why we chose these languages is because they hold a global significance. And they're also languages that are not usually taught in the US. Next slide, Jordan. So we're just going to go a little bit into the programming of One World Now. So if students are interested in just studying Arabic, not Arabic, but just studying a world language, they can take the world language track. And what that looks like is these students will be studying the languages taught at OWN, whether it's Arabic or Russian or Korean or Mandarin. And these class structures are about 90 minutes twice a week from October to June. And students are also able to earn credits if they're SPS students. The environment structure is either it's available in person, hybrid, or online. And so students are able to just pick what fits their schedule since it's an after-school program. And so if a student that week wants an online option, there's that hybrid option, there's an online option, and there's that in-person option. So there's also the leadership track. So if student just wants to focus on their leadership skills, build up their global citizenship skills, as well as have like this intracultural understanding, they can take that leadership track. And so they can take just action on social justice issues locally, as well as talk about issues global and locally as well. Those workshops are about 90 minutes twice a month. They're also available in person and online as well. And the cool thing about the in-person leadership workshops, it's that dinner is also offered for students in that after-school program. For students like that want to do both, and that's what I did, they can do both the world language and the leadership track. And what that looks like is students are engaged in both in learning the language as well as building up their leadership skills. And at the end, they get to earn a global citizenship certificate. And so I think I still have that somewhere in one of my rooms, but it was really cool to have that, just to see like to complete a program that also builds up your language and leadership skills. And these students are also given priority access to their scholarships as well as their study abroad opportunities. What makes OWN really special is its commitment to just constantly evolving and innovating to better support students. So OWN has formally partnered with Seattle Public Schools to expand on their world-wide languages. And especially now with the budget cuts, language usually is at that chopping board first. And so oftentimes students are only left with the option of learning Spanish. Nothing wrong, Spanish is great. I took Spanish in high school. I just wish I had a variety of languages offered to me. And OWN is really able to fill in that gap for Seattle Public Schools students. And through that program, students are able to learn these diverse languages, but also earning college, not college credit, but also earning high school credits along the way. Next slide, Jordan. So this is just a snapshot of the language classes. So you'll see students on Zoom in that online portion learning. There's also, in person, and then there's also that hybrid option. Next slide, Jordan. And so there's that certificate that I have somewhere in the back of my closet, but students are able to earn that certificate. So they go through this end of the year program. There's like a snapshot of a student in a leadership class. And that last picture, students study abroad in Morocco, right behind the Hassan II Mosque. I think for high school students, that's a really cool opportunity to be able to not only learn a language, but also apply that language skills and leadership skills in a study abroad opportunity at the end of the year. I think that's such a cool fit. Next slide, Jordan. So how many students, what is the impact? How many students does OWN support, right? And how many students have they support? So annually, we serve about 300 students, and there are about 2,000 program alums, many who are UW alums as well, or UW students currently. 75% of students come from communities of color. 46% of those students are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. 41% of these students are first-gen students, and about 95% of the students plan to pursue schooling right after, whatever that looks like for each student. And just looking at these numbers, I think to myself how I fit all these boxes. I was a student that came from a community of color. I was a student who was that had free reduced lunch. I was a first-gen student entering UW. And so OWN really provided me these skills, these social skills of like how to engage in these diverse spaces. And so that's something that I really still today apply in my life today. And like our alums come from a wide variety of they just come from wide varieties, like they're in the State Department, they teach in public schools, they're international businesses. A lot of them are UW alums, but also work at UW, like myself. I think I'm one of 2 board members that work within the UW system. So it's also nice to just have that own connection, but also that Husky connection with the alums as well. Next slide, Jordan. So you heard about the program, you heard about my story. How can you help? Spread the word, tell a friend to tell a friend about OWN and its mission. If you guys have more questions, please email us. We're happy to answer. And if you're just curious about who the wonderful staff of OWN is, or who the rest of the board members are, or more about the program, you can visit our website, oneworldnow.org. And lastly, give generously. I think to support programs like OWN, any donation counts. And so that's why we're here today, even asking. But thank you. I think that is the last slide, I believe.
Thank you so, so much. Okay, and our final speaker is Kayla from Rainier Scholars.
Oh, thank you. So it's Kyla Davison Simby. It's a very commonly mispronounced name.
So sorry.
Thank you whatsoever. Yes, I have some slides too, and so I will find myself over here. All right. So as I mentioned, my name is Kyla Davison Simby, and I'm the Interim Executive Director at Rainier Scholars. I've been with the organization for 13 years, and I've served in a variety of roles from direct service to program and organizational leadership. And I'm really excited to talk to you about a program that I know and love, which is Rainier Scholars. So our mission, or Rainier Scholars, is an academic enrichment college access nonprofit, and we begin our work with students in 5th grade and support them through college graduation. We cultivate the potential of underrepresented students of color through access to educational opportunities and providing long-term comprehensive support. And so through our partnership with Scholars and Families, we see high rates of college graduation and also representation in careers of meaning. Our theory of change is really centered around relationships, very similar to what I've been hearing today from other folks as well, and supporting families as they explore and navigate college prep pathways. In our regional context, those pathways are often exclusive, with many barriers for folks of color. And so our work is really to foster academic and personal achievement through that personalized support and culturally relevant curriculum. We aim to advance educational equity through championing access to quality education and also connecting scholars to opportunities and resources that support their persistence and success on college prep pathways. We currently have 2 sites. We are in a season of growth. And so our Seattle program was founded in 2001, and we recruit students from Seattle, Renton, and Highline school districts. Our model in Seattle is responsive to this landscape of opportunity that includes an array of independent schools, parochial schools, and public schools with advanced learning programs. We have 24 cohorts and 12 cohorts of graduates. And our Tacoma program launched in 2021 and operates a slightly different model. Our focus there is really supporting students through a primarily public school pathway, and our primary partnership is with Tacoma Public Schools. So we have 3 cohorts of students there. So our oldest students are in 7th grade, and we're preparing to recruit our 4th. So we aim to serve those who have the most barriers to accessing and completing a college education. And so those who are at the intersection of being either racially or ethnically and socioeconomically underrepresented on college campuses, and those who are first in their family to attend college. And each year in Seattle, we admit a cohort of 60 to 65 students, and in Tacoma, 45 to 50 students as we grow our pool there. And this year we're serving 670 students across sites, and we have 370 alumni. Some of the through lines and components of our program. So academic enrichment is kind of the foundation of our program. So students start with a 14-month academic enrichment phase, which introduces them to content that they'll encounter later on in their academic careers, but is also aimed to accelerate them as well as they're preparing for whatever college prep might look like for them in middle school. We also have some goals internally around students being able to access algebra by the time that they're in 8th grade, because there's some great research around persistence and also competitiveness for college. And so a lot of that is building those skills that are necessary for students later on. And so it's really supplementing and reinforcing their learning at school, specifically in areas of cultural identity and resilience. And our support of students is holistic. And so similar to the work at Northwest Education Association, we students have an academic counselor, similar to it sounds like you're educational advocates, and that visits them at their school on a monthly basis and is kind of keeping touch with the schools, with students, families, and also with Rainier scholars, and keeping those lines of communication open. So each student has an academic counselor that supports them, again, from 6th grade through college graduation. We also have a college counselor, and we integrate mental health support into our programming that families and students can access as needed. Our programming also integrates and emphasizes leadership development and career exploration. And so that takes the place of like workshops. We have a computer science class for our 8th graders. We have civic engagement classes that students take in high school, and purpose development and thinking about what it means to be a positive community member when they're in middle school. And we do all of this in partnership with families, and this leads to empowered families and alumni. And so there are a lot of, college access programs in our region and our nation that are doing really similar and really important work of supporting students on their journey to and through college. And so our approach is, a little different. And so we start early. Students are identified in 5th grade, and we support those students all the way through college graduation. And we have alumni as well. So it's really that beyond in terms of early career support too. We integrate mental health support, and so our mental health clinicians have regular touch points with students and families that are not always therapeutic in the effort to be able to destigmatize the kind of around mental health or seeking mental health. And so they teach our earliest scholars. So they teach classes in the academic enrichment phase. They offer one-on-one student and family counseling, as well as connection to resources through our social worker. And they also run parent workshops for families throughout their Rainer Scholars journey. And so that might look like one on understanding the teenage brain, or identifying, signs of anxiety or depression, or what does it mean to, support your students' academics, and how do you plug in those ways? And so that's something I think is kind of unique to our org in terms of being an academic organization that also focuses on mental health. And then our culturally relevant curriculum. So we see one's cultural identity as a strength and really support students as they are developing their positive cultural identities. And so this is reinforced through our curriculum. The books that they read are not only the classics, because those are the things that they're going to encounter later, but also that they're reading books by folks from backgrounds that are very similar to theirs. We are a very literacy heavy organization. And so a lot of it comes down to the books, but also just in terms of who we bring in to talk to our scholars and families and stuff as well, is generally from folks that look like them, which we think is really important. And then also that it's free to students and their families. And so, thanks to the generosity of our partners and our supporters, our programming is offered at no cost to students and their families. A few things to highlight on, I have a similarly busy page, Cooper, but a few things to highlight. So in the academic enrichment phase, students receive over 1,000 hours of academic enrichment. And so as I mentioned, that's content that's preparing them for what's next, both things that they'll encounter in middle school, high school, and sometimes even college. It's kind of cool when students say, oh yeah, I read the Odyssey, as a 5th grader. And so when I'm reading it again as a sophomore, in a lit class, it's like, I got that, I got this. And I might have my old annotations as well. And then also that, as you can see on the bottom, that most, if not all, of our students are going on to 4-year colleges and universities, and that our students are graduating at high rates, and upon graduation that they're in jobs or grad schools that are aligned either with their course of study or their interests. And we have students that are, they're all across the country. I have this video of Ed Taylor, but I'm gonna skip it because I don't think we have the time, but it's great. And I think it's on our website, so you can check that out. But Ed was on our board for a long time, and he is just a generally wonderful human being. And so we always like to shout out that association. But so, yeah, we do have a long history with the University of Washington. We have 44 scholars enrolled across the 3 UW campuses. Actually, the Tacoma site was hosted at UW-T, our mini college. And so that was something that was really exciting this summer. And then there's been a lot of career development programming that's happened in collaboration with UW. And so we've had, to this point, around 50 high school scholars have participated in the Bright Up program as a summer internship. And we've also had college scholars who have interned with various UW labs. And we also have, folks from UW usually come to our career expo each year. And so it's been a very generative relationship that we're grateful for. I was also on the advisory board of the Robinson Center for a while. And so just having a lot of different points of contact. And so in thinking about ways to make an impact, obviously, we would love and appreciate a donation, but also we think that the experiential pieces are really important as well. And so if you too, have a lab or a potential internship opportunity, that is a huge difference maker for our scholars. One of my colleagues recently did some research and was saying something around how maybe a quarter of college students actually get internship experience throughout their time. And we see that, over 50 to 60% of Rainer scholars are participating in internships either in high school or in college. And so it can be, that professional experience is a real difference maker. We also have college care packages. And so that's something that teams often might work together to put together some care packages for our students that are away at college or even away from home at college when they're at SU or UW. And then also you can come and visit us if you want to see this in action. We're such a large, with working with families for such a long time, it can be kind of hard to like picture, as I'm talking about it now, but you can see the students in action, see them engaged in their classes. And then I think a last piece would be, we are always looking for instructors as well for our academic enrichment phase. And so students are taking history, lit, science, and math during the summer and school year. And so it's a really great way to impart your knowledge to the next generation. And it's cool because the kids are learning about genetics and things like that, when they're going into 6th grade. And so I think it's also probably a good test of an educator. Like, can you make your really, really like lofty things, accessible to a little kid? But yeah, I think that is it for me, but I'm really grateful for this opportunity to have been able to share about organization, especially in the mix with some really cool orgs that I'm glad to hear about today.
Thank you so much, Kyla. I want to open up for questions. If you have a specific question and you want to put it in the chat, we can refer to that. Or if you want to raise your hand, here we go. I'm going to unmute you.
Hi there. So I'm so glad to hear what all your 4 organizations are offering. So here, I have some questions. It's more about it. Are you actually having some current needs to have some social media? Basically, do you need someone to help you to spread the word out about your organizations? If you do, please let me know, because I'm teaching a course in e-marketing, and I usually invite partners to be highly engaged in my course so that my students have some hands-on project to work on. They can work on basically creating social media posting or a TikTok video for your organization for future donations. So if you have that kind of needs, please let me know. And I will put my contact information in the chat. I'm an assistant professor in the school business at University of Washington, Bothell campus. And I will be very glad to connect it with you. The second thing I want to give a comment is because I also volunteer. I'm a state co-director for Math Kangaroo. I know some of you are doing some math curriculum like that. So we do offer free curriculums to those people who in need. And especially for those people who are like minority or marginalized populations. So if you need some math curriculum from K to 12, and I will contact the Math Kangaroo. They are also a nonprofit organization. They can give you for free access. Yeah, so that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Jordan. What volunteer opportunities are available for Freedom Education Project?
Love that, Jordan. So we do have quite a few. So if you are a professor and you want to teach and you have a master's or a PhD or are a PhD candidate, we do welcome folks. So we are always looking for teachers. Especially if there's any Spanish teachers in the room, just throwing that out there. We always need a Spanish teacher really bad. But we're always looking for teachers if you meet their requirements. Teaching for us is a 1-quarter commitment. We run on the Tacoma Community College academic calendar. So if you're ever wondering like when those quarters are, that website can tell you. Unless you reach out to us, we can also tell you. And we do pay, so it's not just volunteer. My other volunteer opportunities though, so we run 2 study halls every week. And we're always looking for volunteers to come and help. That could be editing papers, helping with math homework, literally talking through someone's research with them. So those are opportunities. We also run multiple co-curricular activities. So we have a lecture series, which is actually happening tonight, where our bachelor's students are presenting their research or their capstone projects. But the lecture series as a whole runs as like experts coming in to chat about their research or things that they're passionate about or things that they teach. So we're always looking both for lecturers and for someone who's interested in coordinating the whole lecture series. Like if you have a group of folks you know are interesting and you would like to take on, we do this every month. So if you would like to take on a whole quarter or half a year or a whole year where you have an idea of lectures that you think would be really cool. So again, those are We also run a reading group called Critical Inquiry. We run a film series where we watch and analyze films. So these are all access points where we're always looking for volunteers who might be interested in getting engaged. And if you are interested, I know that the link to donate for us is in the thing, but I will put this, you can email to this email that's in the chat, and that is directly to my admin assistant or comes directly to me. So you'll get a response from me if you are interested.
Thank you. We are at time, but I'm happy to keep everyone a little bit longer if they're available, if there are more specific questions for our groups. I don't want to hold our speakers longer than they committed to, but if they're willing to stay, if we have questions directly for them, I'll wait a couple extra minutes here. This was really exciting. Oh, thanks, Cooper. You're amazing. Thank you
all
so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I think people are leaving. So just want to thank you all so much for joining us today, and especially our speakers. This was really educational. And we really appreciate you and all of the work that you're doing to make the world a better place. So thank you all so much.
Thanks for having us.
Betsy, appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you for organizing, Betsy.
My pleasure.
Take care.